Hello everyone, welcome to question 28 of the STARR review. It says, the graph shows the relationship between the number of gallons of fuel remaining in the tank of a semi-truck and the number of miles traveled by the semi-truck. So we have a function or a graph here. And it's asking which function can be used to find y, the number of gallons of fuel remaining in the tank of the semi-truck after it has traveled x miles. So we have a graph. We need to look for the function. So as always, the first thing we do is we determine what does the x and y represent on this graph. So x is number of miles. So x is miles. And y is number of gallons of fuel remaining. So y is gallons remaining. That's what x and y stand for. Now, this line represents what happened when the truck traveled over a certain distance, what happens to the distance and to the gallons of fuel remaining. And we want to translate this graph into a function, and the tool we'll need to use is the y equals to mx plus b. This is the slope-intercept form of a function. So the this m is slope, and this b is y-intercept. Now, what does that mean? What does slope and y-intercept means in this graph? So let's start with y-intercept. Y-intercept, it means y begins from what value? Or when x is 0, what is y, right? So that's the meaning of y-intercept. Let's take a look at this graph. This line has an intersection with this y-axis, this vertical axis, and this intersection is here. So at this point, you can see the corresponding x is 0. So x is 0 means there's 0 miles traveled. The car has not traveled. And the corresponding y is 240. So that means before the truck travel, there are 240 gallons of fuel remaining. So y begins from 240. When x is 0, y is 240. So the y-intercept, this b, is a 240. So we find out this y-intercept is 240. Okay. Now we need to find out the slope. So what is the meaning of slope? Slope on a graph, we say it's the rise over run, or it equals to the vertical difference between 2 points divided by the horizontal difference. So that we need 2 points to determine the slope of this line. So when we need to pick 2 points because there are numerous points on this line. So normally we pick 2 points where the it's easier to determine the vertical difference and the horizontal difference. So we already have this 1 point here, this intersection where x is 0 and y is 240. Now we need another point. Let's take a look. And this one appears to be a good data point here, because this one it's at a across where x, see, if you see the x here, the x is 300, and this corresponding y is 210. So this pair of 300x and 210y means after the truck traveled 300 miles, there are 210 gallons of fuel remaining. So over the 300 miles, the truck consumed 30 gallons. The gallons decreased by 30 gallons. So that's the meaning of the x and y. And it's quite, because this all those numbers are integers, it's easier for us to determine the difference between them. So let's determine the vertical difference and the horizontal difference. Let's start from the vertical difference. So the vertical difference of this point, let's say this point is our point A, and this is our point B. The vertical position of point A is at this level. This is the vertical position of A. And the vertical position of B is at this level. So A is at 240 and B is at 210. And this difference, the difference here is from 240 to 210. So the vertical difference, their vertical difference is 30. But when we go from A to B, it's decreasing from 240 to 210. The gallons of fuel decreased by 30. Since it's decreasing, so this is a negative 30. This is a negative 30. So the difference between the 2 points is negative 30. Now let's determine their horizontal difference. Horizontal difference. Okay. So between point A and point B, the horizontal position for A is at 0. And the horizontal position for B is 300. So the truck traveled from 0 mile to 300 mile. So the difference between them two is 300. So the horizontal difference is 300. And this time, because the mileage increased from 0 to 300, so this is an increase. So the difference is a positive 300. And the meaning is when the truck travels 300 miles, the fuel will decrease by 30 gallons. So that's the meaning of vertical difference and horizontal difference. Now let's put them into our slope. Vertical difference, negative 30. Horizontal difference, 300. And if we simplify this, we will have negative 1/10. Negative 1/10. That is our slope. Our slope, negative 1/10. This is our slope. So the function will be m is negative 1/10. Negative 1/10. The b is 240 plus 240. So this is the function. This is function. And the implication is that truck started with 240 gallons of fuel. Oh, there's an X here. The truck started with 240 gallons of fuel. And for each mile traveled, for each one increase of X, the fuel will decrease by 1/10 of gallon. So the function is negative 1/10 times X plus 240. And we used this y equals to mx plus b form to help us decide this. We find out, hey, the b is 240 and the slope is negative 1/10. So our answer is y equals to negative 1/10 times x plus 240. And check those 4 choices. J is the correct answer. And that concludes our solution. This is very important. It's often tested in the real STAR test. So I do encourage you to review more examples. You can use the top right button to access more similar examples. And thank you for watching. Please subscribe so that you will receive more solutions, answers, and tips to help you ace the exam. Peace.